For this story, from our first story, we have to go back to a local character who was mentioned in 2, possibly 3 different episodes. A very important man to the city with an alliterative name. I don't know. Gary Gonzalez, is it?
Is it Anthony Anderson?
Yeah, it's Anthony Anderson. It's actually Gary Glitter. William Wolfskill, the man who blazed trail from St. Louis to Santa Fe to Los Angeles and had to eat his mules and horses to survive along the way. So let's just give like a brief reintroduction to Wolfskill and his impact to our area. He came to Los Angeles trapping fur, but it was illegal to trap fur in the Mexican-era California without being a Mexican citizen. And that's when William took on a Chris Gaines-type transformation and Jose Guillermo Wolfskill was born, which was his declaration of Mexicanness. He was coming up short on money, and as a form of work, he planned to hunt sea otters in San Pedro Bay. To do this, he built the first schooner in LA named the Refugio, but then had to sell it a year later due to a sincere lack of sea otters in San Pedro Bay. In 1938, the Mexican government gave Wolfskill a plot of land at Alameda and 3rd that he used to grow wine grapes. You can listen to Candy's Dander, but Liquor is Quicker to find out more about that.
Candy Dander?
Candy Dander, Liquor. I'm not good with them $5 words.
Like liquor. I can't handle my liquor when I say it.
You're telling me to say it? I got confused.
Say it.
He grew 55,000 wine vines over 145 acres. To be exact, the Mexican government granted Jose Guillermo William Wolfskill 100 acres of land between 3rd and 9th that was boxed in by San Pedro and Alameda. And his adobe was at 239 Alameda Street between 3rd and 4th, which is verbatim what you said in a previous episode.
But where's the jokes? Where's the hilarious jokes?
Where's the punch?
Where are the cutting edge jokes?
Where's that sharp wit I'm known for?
Yes.
As you put, and I paraphrase, he's one of the 3 most important winos in California wine history.
Oh, God.
I'm so good.
That's funny. No, really. That's funny.
Could you sign my script page, please?
I'll sign everybody's iPod who downloads this right on the screen. Magnum Sharpie.
I'm going to need about $5 from everybody, though. I'll send you my PayPal web address or whatever.
Daniel wants money at paypal.com.
And like any wino, he quickly grew dissatisfied with his life and decided to change it dramatically. But to do this, he just went from grapes to oranges. We all know that phrase, from grapes to oranges.
From wine to sangria.
As you may remember from our Orange Groves episode, Pulp Nonfiction, in 1841, 9 years before California becomes part of the United States, Wolfskill got sweet Spanish orange seedlings from the San Gabriel Mission and planted them on his land at 5th and Alameda, 2 acres worth. This orange idea took off and eventually planted 2,500 orange trees on 70 acres by the Adobe along the river. It was the largest orange grove in the United States at the time. He also is credited with introducing the Valencia orange, but that wasn't this grove, that's in Valencia. Also, Wolfskill started what is considered to be the first American school in California after giving personal education lessons out of his home to first his children and then local kids. So that's Wolfskill, just a reminder.
Yeah, I know.
God darn it. Gosh dang.
Ding dang diddly doodly.
Who were we doing yesterday? Was Flanders? Boba Fett.
Boba Fett Ned Flanders. For anyone who doesn't know, look up a picture of the guy who plays Boba Fett without his helmet on.
Jeremy Bullock.
And the phrase, he's no good diddly he's no good diddly used to be dead. Ding dang diddly dead will make sense to you.
So we have to go back to another episode now.
Episode 4.
Now we have to go back to episode You're Killing Me, Larry, to talk about the Southern Pacific Railroad and E.H. Harriman.
Gosh darn, we're funny.
We're so on it. We're so on it. E.H. Harriman, who through many wheelings and dealings put himself in place to become president of Southern Pacific. Harriman had his eye in Los Angeles to build his empire, which he had to go toe-to-toe against Henry Huntington and his company Pacific Electric, both of whom were trying to unify the city by the way of rails, and both of them wanted to be the man that did that. Mm-hmm. The two men competed heavily in going around the city and collecting the most rails, with Huntington eventually succeeding to Harriman. The Southern Pacific Railroad is historically the most important transportation link for Los Angeles. There are a lot of factors that helped turn Los Angeles into a real city that people were drawn to, and every few episodes we introduce a new one. Like Hollywood is why everyone came here, or the images of oranges, or oil, or fresh air, or the Olympics. But Southern Pacific is part of
the promise of lizard people.
Where are they? How do I become one of them?
Prove that they're not here. Obviously, the Earth is flat and hollow, so they're down there.
Yeah, and
I saw Kong.
Because the Earth is flat, all ground is super hot all the time. And that's where lizards want to live, is underground. Duh.
We're one big heat rock for the king lizard.
Heat rock. My favorite B-52 songs is Heat Rock Lobster. I hate myself and I want to live longer. So Southern Pacific is part, of all of those things.
My God, he spit all over me.
You insulted me and I got mad. I'm turning into a lizard. So with every idea,
Waterworld.
Gosh dang!
God darn diddly! No ding dang diddly vaporizations.
It's disintegrations.
I'm talking about Django Fett now. He would vaporize.
That's a different That's still Boba Fett. But like I was saying, like everything that you associate with people coming to LA and drawing people in Southern Pacific is part of every one of them because they were like the big transportation thing at the time. You would go on to stimulate agriculture and the marketing and distribution of oranges. They were responsible for towns being built. They encouraged oil drilling and industrial development and helped turn the area into a tourist stop. The city grew and flourished because of Southern Pacific. We should also introduce another figure in Los Angeles history, Phineas Banning. Around the late 1860s, Banning built a railroad between Los Angeles to San Pedro with the money he got from a state subsidy. This 21-mile railroad was called Banning's Los Angeles and San Pedro Railroad. The rail line ran from Tidewater in the South Bay area to Alameda Street near the plaza in LA around Wolfskill's Adobe. Banning was truly working towards harbor improvements and worked through the progression of ox carts with stagecoaches and wagons to rail lines. He saw the evolution of that. This was apparently the first rail line in Southern California and was swallowed up by Southern Pacific along with everything else. But Banning made really good money from this because without this line that he created, Southern Pacific would have to go to San Bernardino and then have another freight come into the city.
No, San Bernardino.
Emphasis on no.
Emphasis on no. San Bernardino is what that was.
Emphasis on burn, emphasis on no.
I can't wait to go home and tell Melissa what I said. And then I said,
I can't wait to go and wake her up.
Wake up, I had a new burn on the county of San Bernardino.
Why are you mad? I don't understand. God, you're always signing with San Bernardino.
Side Bernardino.
Side Bernardino. More like Side Bernardine, yes.
So much fun you can have.
Oh my God. Banning started buying up a lot of land in the harbor area in anticipation for those areas' productivity along the harbor, seeing that as that area would be the city's big port, and it would. Banning is still referred to as the father of the Los Angeles harbor, and Wilmington was named after Banning's hometown in Delaware to honor his contribution to the area. Years later, when he was very ill, he was in San Francisco and he got hit by a trolley, and a couple days later died. That's Phineas Banning.
My own son.
What hath I wrought?
Et tu, trolley?
My son, what have you done? Okay, so what's this have to do with William Wolfskill?
Yeah, please tell me.
So let's go back to 1885. A few years before Harriman took over Southern Pacific, the same year Southern Pacific bought and merged with the Central Pacific Railroad Company. It was also 40-something years before Wolfskill first planted the seeds on his land that would turn into, by this point, the largest orange grove in Southern California. Let's go back to the history of some of the depots in the area before I get to the one I'm going to talk about.
The what? The depots.
The depots.
I thought that
Did
was
I not address what I was going to talk about beforehand?
No,
I should. I'm going to be talking about the arcade depot.
Okay, yeah, I thought the depots was some slang you have for like burnouts or something.
Oh, yeah, the depots.
The depot.
Yeah.
Don't walk down Hollywood Boulevard at night. It's riddled with depots.
I'm going to be talking about Home Depot today.
Home. Office.
Want to buy a shower and a lot of glue in the same place? Go to Lowe's.
This episode brought to you by Osh.
By the people who wait outside of Lowe's. There was the Los Angeles Depot on the southwest corner of Alameda and Commercial Street between the business district and Chinatown, and was a humble little station that was referred to once as being a freight shed and was used mostly for freight train duties. And at one time, I'm sure due to Banning at the harbor, all trains and ship arrivals were synchronized. This was around that time. There were some passenger steamer trains that went through the rail, but they were less frequent and thus grossly inadequate for passengers. When Southern Pacific began running trains in Los Angeles in 1874, this is the depot where trains would pass through. This is the initial one. It's Los Angeles Depot. There was the Commercial Street Depot, which later became the Los Angeles Farming and Mining Company, and used the depot itself to load freights. Southern Pacific was also using this to load freights and overland passenger cars until 1877. There was the Los Angeles Independence Depot, running 1875 between Santa Monica's waterfront and Los Angeles area proper.
Was that the really long one?
That wasn't the one that went out.
Yeah, that was the long
This
pier
was
or something.
Yeah. This I might have been the long pier. Yeah, it was because it went out to the waterfront. This was one of those land boosting things. Like these two guys. I mean, what are their names? Robert
Stadler
Baker
and Waldorf.
Yes, it's those two guys who yell at everybody because they're in Santa Monica. They think they're better. They was hip in the high in the hills of Malibu and they laugh at everybody.
Nature's Balcony, the Pacific Palisades, and the Muppets are all the
Redondo Beach.
The lost island of Moo that's sunk under the Santa Monica Bay.
Robert Baker owned Rancho San Vicente and Santa Monica, and he sold 2/3 interest in his lands to a Nevada senator named John Jones. The two men subdivided up parts of this ranch and created Santa Monica, which is why they had again, to go back to everything that happened in You're Killing Me, Larry, people would buy these lands, they'd build a railroad, and then they would boost land that way. The LA and Independence Depot, or it was also called the Santa Monica Depot, was located between 4th and 5th Streets on the east side of San Pedro. Apparently, this depot was very stylish with an overall Italiente details with French school empire influence and two ornate prominent towers capped by steeply pitched mansard roofs. There was a grand staircase, like $2,000 for this little station, and they had large bronze-colored sphinxes which led up to the side of the building. What? The exterior looks like a church-esque, but it also looks like a church that has a loading dock and a saloon. Like, it's a really weird-looking place. Eventually, Santa Monica Depot was sold during the Huntington-Harriman frenzied scramble for the rails, and it was used just for passenger trains for a bit, but then it burned down. Fire purifiers all well. Then there was a river station, also known as the San Fernando Street Depot, which was in 1876. The first depot built, this is where it gets tricky. It was either the first Southern Pacific station built in LA that was officially Southern Pacific, or it was the first Southern Pacific depot built for strictly passengers. One of those two. It was built on what is now North Spring Street, formerly San Fernando Road, which is still a street. The river station was along North Street near Sotelo Street, which is between Lincoln Heights and Chinatown, kind of near Cathedral High School, where that field park is. You know that lower field park? They call it the cornfields, which is pretty scary.
What?
Okay.
Where is this?
You're like past Chinatown on the way to Lincoln Heights. If you're coming either like on Main Street or on Spring Street, and you look like a lower grassy field where they have that dark carnival, whatever it's called, that's too expensive for me to go to.
Dark Carnival in the cornfields.
It's like Bizarro or something. I don't know what it's called.
That you're just making it more confusing.
Okay, it's on Broadway. You're coming towards past Elysian Heights, past where Chavez Ravine was, and on your right-hand side, there's like a lower tiered area, and it's just grass. Gosh, dong, diggly darn, ding, dong, 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 ding, diddly. She's no good to me, diddly dead. It doesn't matter. Whether you know it or not, kind of doesn't matter to me.
Let's go over directions for a few more minutes.
If I keep going down Figueroa, where will I end up?
Where is it in relation to the pantry?
You keep going down Figueroa. The river station was built with anticipation of the use for passenger trains between LA and San Francisco. The Southern Pacific River Station, as it was officially called, was the real deal. It was a large depot comprised of, instead of a large interior hallway, like a big room, it was a series of rooms that you passed through, like a baggage room, welfare express office, there were stairs, ticket office, a water closet for all that gay water that is not ready to let its family know how it feels about Brad. You know what a water closet was? It was really weird to me. Take a guess.
It's a bathroom.
How did you know that? I've never heard water closet before. I thought it was a utility room. Like,
No,
all the pipes are here.
That's what they call it. Like everywhere outside of the United States, it's called
Really?
a water closet.
I had no idea. That's stupid. The Brits. Oh, you want to take the Jimbly Wombly. That's what we call freeway.
You want to drain the old wiggly wall in the water closet as you ding dang diddly wish.
I saw the rubbish bin in the water closet. What are you talking about? You're not making words. I want to call it Poo Poo Dungeon. Anyways.
The doo-doo dungeon.
This was like the first station in LA that was, it looked like almost a modern station. It wasn't like a shack with a bunch of railroads near it. Like it had amenities.
It wasn't just a box that a train happened to pass by.
Exactly. It didn't have shovels and also train tracks. It was so fancy that there was even a water closet outside the building so workers and less desirable people could go use that
closet.
Eventually they moved to the new river station across on the other side of North Spring Street, and then the old building was torn down. After passenger service moved to the arcade, river station was starting to be used mostly for freights and stuff. So, what's the deal with this arcade depot, Greg?
What's the deal with the arcade depot? I'm not allowed to speak in this day and age because I'm Jewish.
Wolfskill died in 1866, and then his two sons, Joseph and Louis,
Died or wolves killed?
The wolves died.
Wolves killed by natural causes.
He died in 1866, and after this, his sons Joseph and Louis took over their father's affairs. They started cheating on their mother.
They started sleeping with his dad's old mistresses.
I gotta do it.
You signed the contract.
They also took over his business affairs. Joseph took over most of his father's dealings, including the groves and all his properties. Louis was responsible for the properties through the San Gabriel Valley, in particular Rancho Santa Anita, or as we know it, Santa Anita.
Or as we know it, a horse racing track.
William Wolfskill bought it after the intense flood and then the many droughts of the 1860s. He got it for mud dirt cheap, is what I wrote. In 1877, Joseph began using Southern Pacific to ship out oranges, the first batch going to St. Louis, thus kicking off citrus mania across this fine land. With Wolfskill orange groves plentiful at the time, he saw an opportunity. So in 1885, Joseph donated the grove, which, keep in mind, was one of the largest in the country and most successful in the country at the time. He donated this to Southern Pacific, thus putting a major American railroad right at his front door. Clever guy.
What I've always wanted.
And who would be answering that front door if Southern Pacific was knocking? Oranges, brother. Oranges. And because property near a major railroad would yield more profits, whatever wasn't gifted to Southern Pacific was then subdivided into 25 square foot lots and then sold off. That's what he did with that land up there on Alameda. So, okay, yes, Southern Pacific decided they wanted to build yet another passenger station at this more central point in Los Angeles. Even though it's like 2 miles apart, they wanted it more central.
2 miles would take you like 4 years to travel back then.
Yeah, no, sure. Yeah,
unless you were an orange.
A frozen orange, and then you wanted to unfreeze on the way. Much like Han Solo and Carbonite. Construction of the arcade.
He's no.
He's not like dead.
I'm trying to think of other Boba Fett lines, but I think we've covered all three of them. He's no good to me, dead. As you wish, or
as you were.
No, he says as you
wish.
As you wish. He was in The Princess Bride.
Yeah,
he was the dread pirate Boba Fett. What's the other one?
He didn't say anything in Return of the Jedi except, oh!
Except, ouchie! At least say, excuse me.
You hit me!
Boba Fett, where?
Right here, sir. Okay, so construction of the
Well,
arc.
we weren't on topic?
What, do we keep going back to the same joke?
What, are we so desperate to try to make someone laugh that we have to make the one thing that we thought was funny work?
It is funny. We don't think it's funny. It's funny.
Hey, it's funny.
It's funny.
Everybody,
I'm telling you, it's funny.
this is comedy. This is the comedy revolution.
Construction of the arcade depot, and just to be clear, not arcade games, okay? Arcade is an older term meaning a place with
Meaning
arches.
pinball.
Let me tell you, side note, before we get into it, why I picked the arcade depot. We were doing the tour of the Cecil, and somebody couldn't figure out what train station was on Alameda, and the guy from SO Tour said the arcade depot, and when he said that, I heard pinball machines in my head, and I had no idea, so I started looking into it, and then just gave me the opportunity to look into it. An arcade, an old-fashioned term, means a place with arches. Stanford University has a series of arches, thus is an arcade. Mom and Dad, I got accepted to Stanford Arcade University.
I need a lot of quarters.
I need
I need like 8 billion quarters.
I need like $10,000 worth of tuition quarters.
Did everyone bring your tuition tokens? Why did I say that like a Canadian?
We were playing with Brits. Now you haven't got back yet.
Excuse me, I got to go to the water closet.
Sorry.
Sorry, I wet my pants.
Construction of the arcade depot began in March of 1888 and concluded in September of that same year.
Wait, what year?
1888, son.
They said 1988.
1988. What were you?
That's when I was constructed.
The arcade depot went up really fast, but passenger train service didn't open up until the following year in February, which was due to a conflict in the right-of-way rules with the depot from Santa Monica. They couldn't figure out which trains would be allowed the right-of-way, so it didn't open
This
for
sounds like a
year.
math problem.
The design of the arcade depot is what is usually remembered most about it. Its designer was Arthur Brown, who was superintendent of the Bridges Buildings Department of the Central Pacific Railroad. It was a depot made mostly of wood, and in this town, the fact that it, spoiler alert, doesn't burn down and appear fine fire is a miracle. Later, after typing that hilarious sentence out, I read that this was a concern and there were ample water hydrants placed in the depot and 6 firemen employed there.
Like full-time
a rotation of
guarding.
firemen.
Make sure fire doesn't come here.
Arcade Depot was 500 feet long and 80 feet wide with a 90-foot-high arched roof supported by iron roof trestles. The high ceiling gave off abundant natural light, but there was also these skylights above the trains with glazed arches. It's designed with a Victorian style, so again, it looks like a...
With sprinkled turrets.
And
Where the support beams jelly filled.
I just have to know. Was it gingerbread made of gingerbread? I'm so tired. Daniel, let me go to sleep.
No.
It's made in Victorian style, so it looks like a church that prays to trains, which was a trend in the East Coast and European train stations. The main part of the building separated trains from the elements, so passengers could move on and off of them in comfort. Tracks inside this room in the depot, and there was also a station outside. There were 3 full-length passenger trains for this station and 12 rails, from what I believe. The outside was light green olive and dark red, which were in sync with the color scheme of the Southern Pacific trains at the time. Bye. They were in sync. Outside was a lush garden meant to welcome travelers to the beautiful Southern California climate. Beside the main entrance, there was a fully grown palm tree. There was a lawn for families to come and picnic. They had agaves and sago palms, coniferous trees, and there was a cactus garden. The LA Times praised the arcade station as second to none on the Pacific Slope. On 5th Street, there was the Arcade Hotel and Palm House for travelers. The Arcade Hotel had a drugstore, a barber, a billiard room, and a restaurant. The Palm House was a restaurant for those train patrons who didn't want to eat at the Arcade Depot's lunch counter or dining room. So that's the Arcade Depot.
Snobs. That's it?
Finding stories like
Where'd it go?
I'm going to get to it, all right? I'm going to get to it.
Oh, I thought your story was done.
No, I got a little bit more, but what I'm saying is, like, I found 2 stories of things that happened there. One time, a bunch of horses ran through it,
That's
funny.
Now that's a story I want to hear.
and then they were turned into glue.
They came out the other side as glue. They hijacked the train.
Like those cow commercials or whatever they're trying to sell chicken. I don't know.
Yeah.
I want Popeye's chicken. Let's get Popeye's chicken.
No.
Oh, God.
No, Greg.
You never let me have any fun.
This is a KFC podcast.
We're a KFC family here. It's Chick-fil-A or nothing.
You know where our politics lean.
Another time, like, a family got stranded here, and then one of the
horses took them home.
They rode the horses home. One of the Arcade Depot employees paid for them to go home. Well, great story. Okay, fantastic for them. I bet they're all dead now.
I'm upset that you brought that story up.
So that's the Arcade Depot. What happened? From what I could tell, several things, but most importantly, from everything I read, the Arcade Depot was style over function. Like, it looked beautiful. Everyone talked about, oh, it looked beautiful.
Yeah, it is an impressive building.
It was, but also the city was growing, and it was not prepared to.
We outgrew it.
We outgrew it. It was not prepared for the next 10 years that were about to come.
Yeah, that's everything
That we're going to talk about.
Everything.
Yeah.
We just outgrew them.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the city's population expanded from 50,000 to 550,000 in that time. Along with that, water was introduced to the city via the Owens Valley, and with that, the city flourished and grew seemingly in all directions. So the Arcade Depot was a big deal in 1888, it was now the 20th century, and the need for the bigger train station was a necessity now. The arcade couldn't do it. By the 19-teens, enthusiasm over the arcade depot completely vanished. People thought of it as antiquated, unsightly, and an inadequate station. And in the end, it was a beautiful Queen Anne style station, but it could not accommodate 3 trains. Like it,
I heard it could fit 12 horses in there.
as long as they're wild. If anything spells a
Where the
new...
wild horses come from?
I have no... I can't even remember what year they had horse-drawn cars and the horses kept dying, but it was probably associated with that.
Maybe a few went rogue and then had a family in the mountains, and this was their big attempt to retake the city.
They're gonna get on a train and no one was gonna stop them. If anything spells a new parking lot in Los Angeles, it's style over function, which I won't spell out because there's not enough time. But the Chamber of Commerce was embarrassed by the arcade depot, saying it made a bad impression among travelers. When they see the arcade depot, it makes a bad impression on tourists and people who come here. Compared to the fine depots of Boston and St. Louis and other cities, so around 1912, 1913, Southern Pacific started looking into replacing the arcade depot with something more grand. It was demolished in 1914 and replaced almost immediately with the Central Station, a much larger and more modern railroad passenger depot, which is now where Mocha is, I believe, that long brick wall that rides along Alameda. The arcade station, meanwhile, passed into history unhonored and unsung, as the Times wrote. And no one really cared, as they were like dismantling the arcade station. It was just done. Central Station later met its demise when Old Chinatown also met its demise, and Union Station was built in 1939. And then that was it. That's our Central Station now.